My in-laws are moving in with us, Jenna announced, crossing her arms over her chest. So, you need to leave. I stood at the kitchen island, a damp dish towel in my hands, and blinked at my 32-year-old daughter. The house was quiet, save for the hum of the refrigerator I had bought when theirs broke down 2 Thanksgivings ago. They're moving in, I asked, keeping my voice perfectly level. Jenna shifted her weight, avoiding my direct gaze. Greg's parents need the support. His dad's knees are bad and his mom can't keep up with their old place. We need the space. You'll need to be out by the end of the month. I laughed. I didn't mean to, but the sound bubbled up from my chest, sharp and genuine. It echoed in the large kitchen. Jenna frowned, her posture stiffening. It's not a joke, Mom. We need the guest room. And the downstairs office. You've had a good run here, but it's time. A good run, I repeated, folding the dish towel with deliberate care. 3 years ago, when Greg lost his job, they had begged me to move in. I sold my small condo, funneled my savings into their mortgage arrears, and became the live-in cook cleaner and financial safety net. Greg is taking them out to dinner right now to celebrate, Jenna added, pulling her phone from her pocket. We'll be back late. Please start sorting your things. She turned and walked out the front door without another word. The lock clicked shut, leaving me alone in the house I had kept afloat. I didn't cry. I didn't collapse into a chair and wonder where I had gone wrong. Instead, I walked over to the kitchen drawer, pulled out a thick stack of receipts I always kept neatly filed, and set them on the granite counter. If I was leaving, I was taking exactly what was mine. The house felt entirely different as I walked through the rooms that evening. I wasn't looking at the decor anymore. I was taking an inventory. I opened my laptop on the dining table, a solid oak piece I had ordered from a local furniture maker because Jenna complained their old one was too small for entertaining. I logged into my bank accounts. Line by line, the reality of the past 3 years stared back at me. Monthly grocery runs averaging $800. The electric and water bills both set up on my autopay. The streaming services. The new washer and dryer. They didn't just want my room. They wanted my resources without my presence. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jenna. Don't forget to take the chicken out of the freezer for tomorrow. Greg's parents like a big Sunday lunch. I read the message twice, chuckled softly, and deleted it. I walked to the kitchen, opened the freezer, and looked at the organic chicken I had purchased. I left it exactly where it was. Next, I opened a new browser tab and began searching for short-term rentals. I didn't need a sprawling house. I needed a clean, quiet space where the thermostat belonged to me. Within an hour, I found a furnished 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet complex across town. It was available immediately. I filled out the application, paid the deposit online, and received an automated approval email minutes later. The manager would meet me with the keys in the morning. I closed the laptop and stretched my back. The quiet of the house was no longer oppressive. It felt like a blank canvas. I walked into the laundry room and unplugged the washer and dryer. I coiled the cords neatly. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Saturday morning arrived with the sound of heavy footsteps upstairs. Jenna and Greg were awake. I was already dressed, sipping black coffee from a travel mug. I had a busy day ahead. I grabbed my purse and headed for the front door, just as Greg lumbered down the stairs, rubbing his eyes. "Hey, Valerie," he muttered, yawning. "Smells like coffee. Did you make bacon?" "No," I replied smoothly, slipping on my coat. "I'm heading out." Jenna appeared at the top of the stairs, her hair messy. "Mom, what about lunch? Greg's parents will be here at noon. Did you thaw the chicken?" "I didn't," I answered, my hand resting on the doorknob. Jenna's face flushed. "Why not? I texted you last night." "You did." I agreed, offering a polite smile. "But since I'm moving out, I have a lot of errands to run. I won't be cooking anymore. Have a lovely lunch." I stepped outside and closed the door before she could formulate a response. The crisp morning air felt magnificent. My first stop was the apartment complex. The manager, a cheerful woman named Sarah, handed me the keys and walked me through the unit. It was perfect. Sunlit, spotless, and completely mine. My second stop was a truck rental facility. I reserved a 15-foot box truck for that very evening. Finally, I called my old friend, Diane. We had known each other since our 20s, and she had 2 adult sons who played rugby. Diane, I began when she picked up. Are the boys busy tonight? For you, Val, never, she chuckled. What are we doing? We are packing, I stated, pulling out of the parking lot. Everything. I drove back to the house, my heart beating with a steady, calm rhythm. I had a plan, and I was holding all the cards. When I returned to the house at 2 in the afternoon, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Greg's parents, Arthur and Helen, were sitting in the living room, looking thoroughly unimpressed. Jenna was frantically chopping vegetables in the kitchen, a frozen pizza box sitting discarded on the counter. There you are, Jenna hissed as I walked in. We had to order delivery for lunch because you didn't prep anything. Helen is pre-diabetic, Mom. She can't eat junk. That sounds stressful, I noted, walking past her toward the stairs. Helen leaned over the back of the sofa, fixing me with a sharp glare. In my day, the matriarch of the house made sure guests were fed, Valerie. In my day, guests brought a hostess gift. I fired back, not breaking my stride. Greg stepped out of the downstairs office, my soon-to-be former room. Valerie, come on. Just help Jenna out. We're trying to get my parents settled in here. I am settling myself, I replied, climbing the stairs. I spent the next 3 hours in my bedroom, boxing up my clothes books and personal documents. I stacked the boxes neatly by the window. Downstairs, I could hear the murmur of their complaints. They were already arguing about who would pay for the grocery run since Jenna's card had apparently been declined. Of course, it was declined. I had logged into my banking app in the driveway and canceled the supplementary card I had given her 2 years ago. At 5 o'clock, Jenna knocked hard on my door and barged in without waiting for an answer. Did you cancel the credit card? She demanded, her voice cracking. It's my account, Jenna, I pointed out, taping a box shut. But the groceries? The internet bill comes out of that tomorrow. You'll need to update your payment methods, I suggested, handing her a roll of packing tape. I'm cutting my expenses. Jenna stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. You can't just cut us off without warning. Greg's parents are moving in. We have extra expenses now. And I have moving expenses, I reminded her, picking up a stack of winter sweaters. You told me to leave by the end of the month. I'm simply getting my affairs in order. She threw her hands up in the air. Fine, be petty. Greg and I are taking his parents out to look at new mattresses. Since you're being so helpful, watch the house. We'll be gone until 8. Drive safe, I offered, turning my back to her. I listened carefully as they gathered their coats, complained about the cold, and finally slammed the front door. I watched from the window as Greg's SUV backed out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed Diane. They're gone. You have a 3-hour window. We are pulling up right now, Diane answered, a grin audible in her voice. Less than 2 minutes later, the large rental truck backed into the driveway. Diane hopped out, followed by her 2 massive sons, Mark and Kevin. All right, Val, Diane announced, clapping her hands together as I opened the front door. Where do we start? Kitchen, I directed, leading the way. The refrigerator, the microwave, the espresso machine, and the stand mixer. Mark blinked. You're taking the fridge. I bought it in full and I kept the receipt, I confirmed. If I paid for it, it goes in the truck. The boys went to work. They were efficient and quiet. They disconnected the water line, strapped the refrigerator to a dolly, and rolled it right out the front door. The kitchen suddenly looked incredibly bare. I smiled. We were just getting started. After the kitchen appliances were loaded, we moved to the laundry room. The washer and dryer I had bought last spring followed the refrigerator into the truck. Living room next, I instructed, walking into the space where Arthur and Helen had been sitting hours before. The sofa, Kevin asked, grabbing one end. And the love seat, the coffee table, and the smart TV, I confirmed, unplugging the screen from the wall. Diane chuckled as she wrapped the TV in a moving blanket. Jenna is going to have an absolute fit. They won't even have a place to sit. They have the floor, I observed calmly. They didn't pay for the floor, but they can sit on it. We moved quickly. I didn't touch a single item that belonged to Jenna or Greg. Their framed photos, their cheap lamps, and the old recliner Greg brought from his bachelor days stayed exactly where they were. But the dining table, the patio furniture, the expensive vacuum cleaner, and every piece of art I had purchased were loaded away. By 7:30, my bedroom was entirely empty. The downstairs office was cleared of the desk and shelves I had bought. I did a final walkthrough. The house echoed. It looked hollow, stripped of the warmth and convenience my money and care had provided for 3 years. "Truck's full, Val," Mark called from the front door. "We're ready to roll." I stood in the kitchen and placed a single envelope on the counter. Inside was my house key. "Let's go," I said, locking the door behind me and pulling it shut. I climbed into the passenger seat of Diane's car, leaving the driveway just as the streetlights flickered on. I didn't look back. There was no nostalgia, no regret. Just the quiet satisfaction of a ledger balanced. The new apartment smelled of fresh paint and pine cleaner. With the boys' help, we unloaded the truck in under an hour. The sofa fit perfectly in the living room. The TV went on the media console, and the refrigerator slid right into the alcove in the kitchen. I ordered a stack of pizzas for Diane and her sons, and we sat around my dining table, eating and sharing stories. For the first time in years, nobody asked me to clean up. Nobody complained about the temperature in the room. At 8:45 p.m., my phone screen lit up on the counter. It was Jenna. I let it ring. It stopped, then immediately started again. "Showtime," Diane murmured, taking a bite of her pizza. I swiped the screen and brought the phone to my ear. "Hello? Mom, where are you? We just got home and we've been robbed," Jenna shrieked. The panic in her voice was absolute. "The TV is gone. The fridge is gone. Greg is calling the police. Tell Greg to put the phone down," I commanded, keeping my voice steady and low. "You weren't robbed." Silence hung on the line for 3 seconds. Then Greg's voice barked in the background. "What does she mean?" "Mom, what did you do?" Jenna demanded, her tone shifting from panic to horror. "I packed," I explained simply. "You told me to leave by the end of the month. I decided to expedite the process. I took my belongings." "Your belongings?" "You took the dining table. You took the washer." "I have the receipts for every single item, Jenna. I bought them. Therefore, they are mine. I left your father's old recliner and the toaster oven you bought in college." "You're welcome." "You can't do this," she screamed. "Where are we supposed to put Greg's parents' food? Where are they going to sit?" "That," I replied calmly, "is a problem for the homeowner to solve." "Good night, Jenna." I ended the call and powered off the phone. I slept flawlessly. No heavy footsteps above my ceiling, no midnight arguments from the hallway. When I woke up on Sunday morning, the sunlight was pouring across my own living room. I made coffee using my own machine, sat on my own sofa, and turned my phone back on. 15 missed calls. 22 text messages. I opened the texts while I sipped my coffee. Jenna, Mom, please answer. This isn't funny. Jenna, Greg's dad's medication needs to be refrigerated. Bring it back. Jenna, how could you do this to your own family? Jenna, we don't have internet. Did you cancel the Wi-Fi? Jenna, answer the phone. I didn't reply. I opened my laptop and finalized the cancellation of the utility accounts under my name. I paid the final balances and transferred the services out of my name. If they wanted electricity and water next week, Greg would finally have to put his name on a bill. Around noon, there was a knock on my apartment door. I paused, wondering if they had somehow tracked me down. I walked to the peephole and looked out. It was a woman about my age holding a small potted succulent. I opened the door. "Hi there," she beamed, extending a hand. "I'm Martha from across the hall. Saw you moving in last night. Just wanted to welcome you to the building." I shook her hand, feeling a genuine smile stretch across my face. "I'm Valerie. It's wonderful to meet you, Martha. Would you like to come in for some coffee?" "I'd love to," she agreed, stepping inside. She looked around. "Wow, you got settled fast. It looks beautiful in here." "Thank you," I replied, closing the door. I brought only the things that matter. As we sat and chatted about this neighborhood, my phone vibrated on the counter. Jenna was calling again. I slid the phone into a drawer and focused on my guest. By Tuesday, reality had firmly set in for them. Jenna had stopped sending angry, demanding texts and shifted to a different tactic: bargaining. I was at the hardware store buying command hooks for my pictures when my phone buzzed. I answered it. "Mom," Jenna began, her voice exhausted. "Can we talk?" "We are talking." I noted, examining a pack of hooks. "Greg's parents are complaining constantly. Helen's back hurts from the old chairs, and Greg had to buy a mini fridge on credit just for their insulin and milk. The house is a mess. We had to pay deposits for all the utilities today. Being a homeowner is a large responsibility," I offered neutrally. "Look, I'm sorry, okay?" She sighed. "I was stressed. Greg was pressuring me to make room for them, and I took it out on you. Please just bring the stuff back. You can have your room back. We'll put Helen and Arthur in the basement." I placed the hooks in my basket. "The basement has no bathroom, Jenna, and I have already signed a 12-month lease." "You signed a lease?" "Cancel it, Mom. We need you here. I can't afford the groceries and the bills, and Greg's parents aren't contributing anything." "They are your in-laws, Jenna. You chose to move them in. You told me I was no longer needed." "I didn't mean it." "Yes, you did." I corrected her gently but firmly. "You meant it when it was convenient for you. Now my absence is inconvenient. I am not returning." "So you're just abandoning us," she cried. "I am stepping back," I clarified. "You and Greg are adults. You will figure out how to furnish your home and pay your bills." "I love you, Jenna, but my wallet and my patience are officially closed." I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in years. Weeks turned into months, and my new life settled into a comfortable, quiet rhythm. I joined a walking club with Martha from across the hall. I decorated my apartment exactly the way I wanted without anyone complaining about the colors or the clutter. My bank account, no longer drained by endless grocery runs and utility bills, began to grow again. I heard updates about Jenna and Greg through the family grapevine. Diane's daughter worked with Greg, and the news wasn't a secret. Without my financial padding, they had to take out a personal loan to buy a new refrigerator and washing machine. Arthur and Helen were miserable, complaining daily about the lack of space and the quality of the food. Tensions in the house were at an all-time high. Eventually, Jenna stopped asking me to come back. Instead, she asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. We met at a neutral cafe downtown. She looked tired, older than her 32 years. She didn't demand anything this time. She just updated me on her life, apologizing quietly for how things had ended. I accepted her apology, but I did not offer her a key to my apartment. If you ever need a break, you know we still have space. Eventually, she offered weakly as we stood to leave. I smiled, pulling my coat tight against the chill. I have all the space I need, Jenna. I walked back to my car, got in, and drove to my apartment. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and breathed in the quiet. I hung my keys on the hook I had installed myself. I was no longer the live-in help. I was no longer the silent bank account. I was just Valerie, standing in a home that belonged entirely, undeniably to me. Sometimes the hardest part of navigating family dynamics is recognizing the difference between being valued and just being used for convenience. Valerie's story isn't about revenge or being petty. It's about a quiet, powerful realization of self-worth. It reminds us that setting a boundary isn't an act of anger, it's an act of self-respect. We often pour so much of our time, energy, and resources into the people we love that we forget to save a little peace for our own lives. The biggest takeaway here is simple: you don't have to set yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. Your comfort and peace of mind matter too. If Valerie's journey resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. What would you have done if you were in her shoes? Would you have taken the fridge too? Let's chat about it.